Yes, sir. Yes,
Sir.
sir.
Okay. Good morning, children. Today we are going to continue with the chapter force and pressure. Yesterday we had seen, yes, Chinmay, am I audible to you? Am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
You can tell you can give your response in the form of chat. Okay. Okay. So, children, we have been studying the chapter force and pressure, and so far we had seen that force is something which changes the state of motion of an object or tends to change the state of motion of an object. In simple words, force can be said pull or push. Pull or push so that it displaces an object. Okay, children? Then we had also seen the properties of force. Force is a vector quantity as it has both magnitude and direction. When different forces act in the same direction on the same object, the forces get added up. That is, force is additive in nature. On the other hand, if different forces are acting on the same object in different directions, then the net force is the difference of the forces between difference between the forces acting on the same object. Okay, children. Then we had also seen that force can change the direction of motion. Force can change the speed of moving object. Force can bring the body at rest into motion or vice versa. These are all we have seen. Okay, children? And yesterday we had started to study the laws of motion. The first law is also known as law of inertia. And what is inertia? Yesterday we had discussed. Inertia is the property of a body by virtue of which it resists a change in its state of rest or of uniform motion or of direction. Okay. So more is the mass, more is the inertia. Yesterday I gave you many examples that if you want to move an elephant and a goat sitting on the ground, it will be easy for you to make goat move, but it is difficult to move the elephant. Okay, because the mass of elephant is more than that of a goat. Okay, children. Similarly, when a truck and a car are moving with equal speed and suddenly some obstacle comes in their path, then the car can be stopped quickly, but it will take more time to stop the truck because truck has more inertia. Is it understood up to here? Is it understood up to here? And then yesterday we had discussed first law of motion, that is law of inertia. Who proposed laws of motion, children? Who proposed laws of motion? Can you tell me? Who proposed laws of motion? Sir, I said Newton proposed 3 laws of motion. So first law of motion, that is law of inertia, states that a body will not change its state of motion or state of rest until an external force is applied over it. Okay. For example, I gave you some examples that when your mother wants to clean mat, so she used to beat the mat with a stick. So what happens? The mat moves to a different place, but the dust particles which are stick to the surface of the mat, they still are at rest, and thus when the mat moves, the dust particles fall down. Is it understood, children? Is it understood why do dust particles fall down when mat moves? It is due to the fact that dust particles, due to their inertia, they keep at rest, and hence the mat moves, so they fall down. Okay, is it clear? Second example I gave, when we are traveling in a bus and the driver applies brakes suddenly. The driver applies brakes suddenly. So what happens? Our lower part of the body, which is in contact with the bus, it suddenly comes to rest because of the application of brakes. So the bus stops. So the lower part of the body also tends to stop, but the upper part of the body, it still, due to its inertia of motion, it tends to be in motion, and hence the passengers fall in the forward direction. Does that happen or not? Does that happen? So up to here we have completed. Okay, children. Now we have to see the second law of motion, and let me tell you, children, second law of motion proposed by Newton is the most important law of motion. This because it gives the actual definition of force. It gives the actual definition of force. So, are we ready to go to the second law of motion? Are you ready, children? Second law of motion. Second law of motion. Please listen carefully. Listen carefully before going to second law of motion. First of all, we have to understand two or three terms. One is, please pay attention. One is distance. Okay. So distance is the, please pay attention. All of you write down. Distance is the length of the actual path traveled by a moving object. Okay. So suppose, please pay attention. Suppose a car starts from point A and it reaches point B. So there are different paths. Okay. This is path 1, this is path 2, and this is path 3. Are you getting my point? So distance in path 1, distance in path 1 is equal to something, is not equal to distance in path 2 is not equal to path 3. Are you getting my point or not? Okay. Are you getting? So distance is the actual length of the path followed by the moving object. So suppose it is 5 meter, it is 6 meter, and it is suppose 12 meter. So, but listen, the points are same, but since the path followed by the moving object is different in the three situations, so the distance is also different. Are you getting my point? Distance clear
Yes,
to
sir.
everyone?
Sir.
Is distance clear?
Yes, sir.
Okay,
Yes, sir.
so now good. Now second is displacement. Displacement is, please write down the definition of distance first. Write down the distance. Distance की definition लिख लो. Distance, the, the length of actual path moving body is called, this direction is called distance. Okay, is called distance. Distance, it can be different. It can be different between two points if the path followed by an object is different. Object is different. Please note down. Okay. Now see, please pay attention. If the body moves from point A to B and then again it goes to point from B to A. So what will be distance from A to B and B to A? Suppose this is x meter. Okay. So total distance will be how much? Total distance is equal to x plus x is equal to 2x meters. Is it clear? Is it clear or not?
Yes, ma'am.
Point everyone has to draw. Is this clear? Is the definition of distance clear or not?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Sir, side please.
Please student tell me, is the definition of distance clear or not?
Yes, sir.
I am asking,
Clear.
Yes,
clear or
sir.
Clear,
not?
Yes.
sir.
Please, you have to send your responses in the form of chat. Okay. So total distance if it moves from point A to B and then B to A, total distance will be 2x meter. Okay. Any problem? Any problem? Okay. Now, distance is a scalar quantity. Distance is a scalar quantity. Scalar quantity. Distance is a scalar quantity. Are you getting my point? Distance is a scalar quantity means it has only direction and it does not have magnitude. Its SI unit is meter. Its SI unit is meter. SI unit is meter. Is it clear? Now shall I rub the board, children? Shall I rub the board?
Sir, please note the last line.
Okay. Now please pay attention. Now same thing. Now let us see for displacement. Displacement. Please pay attention. Displacement. Very important. Displacement. Displacement. Displacement is the, please pay attention. Displacement is the shortest possible path between any two points. Shortest possible path between any two points is called displacement. Okay? Displacement is, please pay attention. Displacement is shortest possible path. Shortest possible path between any two points. Between any 2 points. Okay? It is the shortest possible path. So from point A to B, what will be the shortest possible path? This will be the shortest possible path. This will be the shortest possible path. Path 4. Okay? Any problem in this? In this figure, displacement is in path 4. Is it clear? Is it clear or not? Displacement is a vector quantity. Displacement is a vector quantity children. Okay, that means it has both direction and magnitude. अब देखो ध्यान से displacement from, suppose this is y meter, from A to B it will be 5 meters. Okay, and displacement from B to A, it will be minus 1 meters. Have you understood this or not? Have you understood this? Please tell me. When we are
Yes,
moving
sir.
from A to B, if it is taken as plus 5 meter, and when it moves from B to A, the difference is same, but the distance, the direction is different. Direction is different. So please pay attention here. Net displacement, net displacement of body starting from A, okay, and again coming to A, again coming back to A, back to A will be equal to, please, net displacement is equal to हो जाएगा x, sorry, this is not x, y plus minus y is equal to 0 meters. This is very important. This is very important. Is it clear? So if the body starts from the point and comes back to the same point, what is the distance? Distance will be twice the length of the actual path followed, but displacement will be 0. Is it clear? Displacement can be 0, but if the body is moving, distance can never be 0. Distance can never be 0. Tushar, what do you mean by n square? Tushar, what do you mean by n square? Tushar, Sohail, what do you mean by n square? Okay, is it understood? So distance and displacement we have discussed. Displacement is a vector quantity. Displacement is a vector quantity. अब वो तो लिख दिया देखो. No need to write again. No need to write again. And its SI is also meter. Is it okay? Everybody understood or not? Tushar, I am not understanding. If distance is 2 meters,
Yes, sir.
and if displace, so final distance is 4 meters. Final distance is twice, but displacement will be 0. Tushar, are you getting my point? Displacement will be 0, but distance is twice. Okay? Very good. So this is clear. Is this clear or not? Now, shall I get the board? Shall I get the board?
Sir, side please.
Tejas, before going to the second law of motion proposed by Sir Isaac Newton, let us understand what is distance, what is displacement, what is speed, what is velocity, and what is acceleration. Then only you will understand what is second law of motion. Tejas, are you understanding my point or not? Tejas Chaudhary, are you understanding my point? No, so I am coming the board now. After that, please pay attention. Distance, rate of change of distance is speed. Please pay attention. Speed and velocity. Please pay attention. Speed is rate of change of distance. Rate of change of distance. Distance is called speed. Okay, इसका मतलब क्या हो गया? Speed is equal to change in distance Are you getting my point or not? See, if you don't understand these terms, then it will be very difficult to understand second law of motion. So first of all, you have to understand these things. Okay. See, suppose please pay attention. Yes, a body. Please pay attention. If the body is moving in this direction in the speed of 50 meter per second, okay, and so it will be 50 meter per second speed, okay. But if it changes its speed here and it becomes 80 meter per second, then its total speed will be 130 meter per second. Okay, it is a scalar quantity. It does not mean direction. Okay, direction का कोई लेना देना नहीं होता है. ठीक है. अब velocity. This is very very important. Velocity is rate of change of displacement. 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 Okay. So velocity is equal to change in displacement upon change in time. That time taken. Are you getting my point or not? Okay. Change in displacement मतलब अगर displacement final minus displacement initial upon time final minus time initial. Okay, ये हो गया. Is it clear? Is it clear or not? Please tell me in WhatsApp. You can type your response. Type. Just somebody is raising his hand. Can we proceed? Now, the velocity is a vector quantity. Velocity is a vector quantity. Vector quantity, that means it has both magnitude and direction. Magnitude and direction. Okay. Shubham is asking what is written in bracket. Displacement final minus displacement initial upon time final minus time initial. This is a change, change of displacement upon change in time. Shubham, is it okay now? Now share it up the board. Shubham, share it up. Now one more thing is left. That is very very important. One more thing is left. That is acceleration. Acceleration. Suppose see. This is very very important. Acceleration. Acceleration A. Rate of change of velocity. Rate of change of velocity. Rate of change of velocity is called acceleration. Rate of change of velocity is called acceleration. Suppose, please pay attention. If the car initially is moving at the rate of 40 kilometer per hour, okay, but after a time of 30 minutes, after a time of 30 minutes, the car is accelerated at a speed of kilometers per hour. Are you getting my point? Initially, the velocity of car was 40 kilometers per hour. Okay, but after 30 minutes, 30 minutes time बाद, the velocity changes to 60 kilometers per hour. Then what is the acceleration? Acceleration is velocity final minus velocity initial upon time taken. Upon what? Time taken. Are you getting this? Are you able to understand this or not? Please tell me. Then only we will proceed further. Have you understood this or not? Initially, the car was traveling at a speed of 40 kilometers velocity. Velocity means in this particular direction. Velocity is particular direction. It was moving. Suppose it was moving in the east direction, and but driver thought if we move at this speed, we could not reach in time. So after a time of 30 minutes, he accelerated the car, and the velocity became 60 kilometers per hour. So we need to find out the acceleration. And what is acceleration, children? Rate of change of velocity. Rate of change of velocity means final velocity minus initial velocity upon the time taken. Time taken can also be split as time final minus time initial. But I have written here 30 minutes time. Okay, children? Is it understood? Everyone, please tell me, is it understood or not? Can we proceed now? So acceleration will be 60 minus 40 upon what time? See, 30 minutes. No, we are taking the velocity in the form of kilometer per hour. So we have to write here. Please pay attention. Write here time in which form? In which form we will write the time? Whether it will be written in the form of minute or hour. Please tell me. Hour में रखेंगे, okay? Otherwise, we have to convert this velocity as meter per second, kilometer per minute. Also we can convert, okay? Okay. So here we will write 30 minutes means 0.5 hour. Have you understood this? Is it understood or not? Is it understood? Please tell me.
Yes,
So
sir.
it will be equal to what? 60 minus 40, 20 upon 5. इधर एक 0 जाएगा तो 5 upon कितना हो गया? It will be 40 kilometer per hour square. Per hour square. Clear है कि नहीं? Is it correct? Is it correct or wrong? Tejas, is it correct? Is it correct? Tejas, I am asking you. Tejas, Rehan Khan, Rajab Khan, they are not there. Rajab Khan, Rehan Khan. Okay, so what is the unit of acceleration? It is 40 kilometers per hour square. Any problem in this? SI unit of acceleration is
No, sir.
meter per second square. SI unit of acceleration is SI unit of acceleration is meter per second square. Is it understood, children? Is it understood? Now, once we have understood the terms like distance, displacement, velocity, and speed, then only we can understand the second law of motion. Is there any problem in any of these terms? Speed, velocity, displacement, distance, and acceleration. There is no problem at all. Is there any problem? Okay. Now let us see what is second law of motion. Okay. Shall I rub the board? Shall I rub? Children, shall I rub the board or not? Please tell me. Oh, I'm rubbing the board and then let us see what is second law of motion. See, second law of motion it states that the force applied on an object applied on an object produces acceleration in the body, in the object, if we apply force on an object, the object starts to move. Okay, we can express this second law of motion in other words also. The force applied on an object is directly proportional to the mass and the acceleration produced in it. Okay. In other words, we can also express this law as, please pay attention, the force applied on an object is directly proportional to, please pay attention, is directly proportional to the force applied on a body or an object is directly proportional to the acceleration produced in the object. Please pay attention. इसका मतलब क्या हुआ मैं अभी बताता हूँ. Suppose pay attention. This is an object of having mass m, and a force is applied on it, F. Okay. Initially its velocity was v1. Okay. Initially, and when the force F applied, then mass will remain the same and velocity became v. Okay. Are you getting this or not? F is proportional to acceleration produced. Or when this proportionality sign is removed, we get a constant. F is equal to m into a. This is what the second law states. Force is equal to mass into acceleration. Is it understood? Force is equal to mass into acceleration. Are you getting my point? So not only noting, you have to understand the things. Have you understood or not? अब सुनो ध्यान से. Force F applied किया and after time interval of t. So F is equal to, please pay attention, F is equal to m. What is acceleration? Acceleration is v final minus v initial upon time taken. यही तो होता है acceleration. This is what acceleration is. यही तो acceleration होता है कि नहीं होता है? F is equal to mass into acceleration. Acceleration can be written as v final minus v initial upon time taken. Are you getting my point or not? ये क्लियर हुआ कि नहीं हुआ ये बताओ. Now Arishma are not there on the screen, then only you want me to give side. Arishma, can we proceed further? Okay. Now, shall I get the board? Children, shall I get the board or not? Please respond, children. Okay, now I'm rubbing the board. Now let us solve one or two numericals based on that. Please pay attention. Let us solve one or two questions based on this. See, suppose question number 1. Mohan applies 4 Newton force on a chair. Find the acceleration produced in the chair. Can you find out? Can you find out, children? They are given the force 4 Newton and the acceleration they want to find out on a chair. But what do you need for that? Provided that mass of the chair is suppose 25 kg. Mass of the chair is 25 kg. Now can you solve it? Children, can you solve it? We know that answer. We know that force F is equal to mass into acceleration, and in the question what is given, and acceleration is equal to F upon m. So in the given question, what is force 4 Newton and what is the mass 25 kg. So acceleration is how much? 4 upon 25. What will be the unit, children? What will be the unit? Its unit will be meter per second square. Okay? 4 upon 25. Divide करोगे क्या इसको? Solve it. Solve it, children. 0.16 it is. 0.16 meter per second square. 0.16 meter per second square is the acceleration produced in the chair. Have you understood, children? Have you understood? Okay, very good. So similar kind of questions you will find in the exams also. Okay, you have to take care of the units that you put in the in your solutions. You have to put appropriate units. If it is kilometer per hour, then you have to put the unit of time as hour and unit of distance as kilometer. And if it is given in meter per second, then you have to put the unit of distance as meter and unit of time in seconds. Okay, children? Okay, now. So have you understood all these things? Now, in the next class, we shall try to solve more questions based on second law of motion, and also we will study about third law of motion. Now, it is the time to conclude the class.